Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan and his guest being very honest about what woke him up. Now, this is what woke this gentleman up. Okay. Aside from an episode that I just released about a secret meeting with the Biden-Harris campaign, which I'll talk about afterwards if you want. But what mainly woke him up was a MAGA Mexican waiter and his father and Hillary Clinton lying. the perfect combo. You know what I mean? So I'm going to be going over this clip. Then I'm going to show you some people who are very much like him. I mean, he was almost to the point where he was Trump deranged, very much so. I'm going to show you some clips of some pretty wild people who need the same awakening he does. And then we're going to touch on something that's been buzzing around, which is Hillary Clinton running for president. I'm going to show you where that story originated from and if there's actually any truth to it. So let's get into it. Start with the Rogan clip.
Democrats win or the Republicans. I'm in America.
Right.
And if the Republicans didn't give me any money and they want to get me out, they want to deport me.
Right.
But this nice lady, she gave me an EBT card, and I'm staying at the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City, and I can get a flight somewhere else if I want to go there. Oh, this is wonderful.
Right. So that's how it starts, and there is a lot of that going on. But I will say one of the things that's interesting is it doesn't necessarily stick that way. And the sort of evidence for that is the sort of dramatic ramp up in the Hispanic vote for Trump.
Well, Hispanic people generally are very hard workers.
So this gets to the thing. So I'll just tell a quick story on this. So after the night after the 2016 election, like literally everybody I knew was just like completely traumatized. Like we were all just like completely freaked out. Everybody was shocked.
You were freaked out too?
Yeah, I was completely freaked out. Everybody was freaked out. Like I didn't expect him to win the nomination. I didn't expect him to win the race. Like, and then and the media is on like full hysterical blast, and it's the end of the world. And he's a Russian spy. All this crazy stuff that we now know not to be true. It's just like full on. So a group of us went out to dinner at a restaurant in Palo Alto, and and the atmosphere was like a funeral. I mean, like everybody in the restaurant was just like despondent, like ready to the wrists. And so we're sitting there eating, and like the food doesn't taste good. It's just like can't taste the food, you can't taste the drinks. Like everybody's just depressed.
Wow.
And it gets this thing of like my God, I can't believe that Trump this that so racist and anti-Hispanic and all this stuff. And it was one of those moments where the young waiter who's Hispanic young man in his 20s, one of those rare moments where he broke into the conversation at the table, right? But it was in context. It was like, oh, thank God, because like we're just depressing ourselves to death. So like, thank God he's going to say something. And he said, I think you guys are looking at it all wrong. He's like, my father thinks Trump is fantastic. My father came here as an immigrant, 30 years ago, built a life here, became a citizen, bought into the system, pays taxes, like raised a family.
Mowing his lawn with a MAGA hat on.
he thinks this guy is great. He thinks this guy is fantastic, and he voted for him. And he just has, and then you've heard this before, but then it's like, and the thing that this guy said, the thing my father thinks is terrible is if other people are able to come here, they're able to cut in line. They didn't have to go through the process. They didn't have to prove anything. They're not bought into the system, right? They're able to jump in, and then they don't, and then they're not buying into the system. And part of it maybe they're not being accepted, but also part of it is they're not buying in. They're not assimilating. They're not becoming part of the of what makes America America. And in some cases, and by the way, in some cases, the criminals are coming across and terrorists are coming across and gangs.
Yes.
And it's like my father's not in favor of any of that. Right. My father wants to be part of a great society, of a great America, not some dysfunctional, basically just disaster zone. And I remember the group of us. It was my first glimmer of like, okay, I need to like completely rethink my whole sense of like how the world works. Because
is that one conversation?
Yeah. Well, it was weird because it was like. So what happened with me is like I grew up in rural Wisconsin, which is now like completely Trump country. And so from like 0 to 18, like I completely understood the mentality, and I was always like explaining to my friends of like, no, like this is this is like a different place and people think differently. And then somehow between the ages of like 18 and 40 or whatever, I just like forgot, and I became a Californian. Right? I became a fully assimilated Californian, and I was just like, well, of course the Californians are much more sophisticated and advanced than people where I came from, and so of course everybody in California has it figured out, and of course California is going to lead the country in all this thinking, right? And Trump was for me. Trump's 2016 was the wake up call of like, no. Like that's just like completely, that is such an impoverished worldview of how this country works and of how people think that it doesn't explain because you have to explain what happened. And then you have to like, if you have some sense of being able to predict what's next, which is what I'm supposed to be doing for a living, it's what investing is supposed to be. It's like, okay, I got to rebuild my entire model of the world for like how this all works and how this whole system, how this country works. But it was that conversation that kickstarted it for me.
So what was the process of altering your perspective, or at least opening it up?
Yeah, so for me, it was primarily reading, and so I started to actually read my way back in history, and I actually went all the way back. I tried to read of like where the origins of like left wing thought came from, and then communism and how did that evolve, and liberal democracy, and then also right wing thought, and like everybody's calling everybody fascist now. So like, what was fascism?
Right.
Is that what this is? Right? How did the Germans do with it? So all of those questions, and then kind of converging on in the last 80 years, like how is that either stabilized or not stabilized? And so I did that. But the other thing is I just started talking to a lot more people, and I just stopped assuming that because I read it in the New York Times that it was true. And and by the way, and then of course what unfolded in the years kind of sense was the whole, I followed the whole Russiagate thing like super closely. Like I read everything and I read all the reports. And
what did you think initially? Did you think it was true?
Because it's like this overwhelming consensus from the entire expert class that of course he's a Russian spy. Right. I sat on stage. I went to Hillary's first post-election loss speech, which she gave at Stanford, the very first one. And I sat. We know the people organizing it, so we sat literally like 15 feet from Hillary in her first appearance. And it's, the whole thing is fraught with just like incredible tension because and the Russiagate stuff is in full blown display, and I go there and I'm like, all right, this is going to be me. And and the audience is Stanford audience, and so it's all 100% Hillary Clinton supporters.
Right.
And I'm sitting there and I'm on my best behavior because I'm with my wife and I have to like not I have to not act out. And Hillary gets up there and she says Trump is only president today because Vladimir Putin hacked Facebook and made him the president, right? And I'm sitting in the audience and I'm like on the Facebook board and I'm like, that's not true. And like, I know for an absolute fact that that's not true, right? And so that got me thinking. And then the Russiagate stuff unspooled, and I was like, the whole the Steele dossier and like all this stuff comes out.
What was the accusations about Facebook? How did she think that Russia hacked Facebook and made Trump the president?
Yeah, so it's this whole thing with this. Remember this whole thing, Cambridge Analytica, and so it's this whole thing that there was this data, there was this theory, which by the way is like completely. This is like a completely fake thing. Like this didn't. So there was this data set on user behavior that in theory there's a theory that you could sort of impute human behavior from this data set, and then you could use it to predict what people would do and how they would react to different kinds of messages. And it was like this like magical breakthrough in basically thought control. And then there was this company called Cambridge Analytica in the UK that figured out a way to do this, and then it was this like new kind of literally like mind control, like by far like the most powerful meme weapon of all time for getting people to vote the way that you want. And it was this data breach of Facebook. The whole thing was weird because Facebook had been criticized for a decade leading up to 2016 that it kept all the data closed, right? So the criticism was Facebook never lets any of the data. It doesn't share the data, right? And the criticism for years was Facebook is the Roach Motel of data, and the virtuous thing for it to do is to actually free the data and let everybody else have access to the data. And then in 2016, flipped 180 degrees, and it was Facebook is the most evil company of all time because it let Cambridge Analytica get access to this data. And then Russia ran basically a psychological operation on the American citizens using this data.
Why didn't Facebook push back?
They did early. It's just this, they did early on. They do today in their way, but they're trying to run a business. They're trying to get to the next quarter. They're trying to keep the employee base and everybody copacetic. They're trying not to get just like completely destroyed by the politicians. They're getting slammed every single day on every conceivable issue you can imagine. And it's actually a very interesting thing when you're in these companies, like these big issues are big issues, but you're also literally trying to like make the quarter, right? You're trying to ship your products. You're trying to close your sales. You're trying to keep your employees from quitting, right? You have responsibilities, right? You have practical concern responsibilities. And so sometimes these companies get kind of wedged because they can't do the things that they would do if they were just in damage control mode. And then maybe the message doesn't get out. But
so what was a bigger shift, the waiter or the Hillary speech?
It was the waiter. I mean, by that, the waiter was a much bigger shift because it was listening to a person with their feet on the ground actually explaining the way the world worked. Whereas with Hillary, it was cope, right? It was delusion. It was amazing, by the way. She then spent the next hour and a half. When I'm in a place where I don't know if I'm going to control myself, I bring a little notepad along because I can work out my demons like on exactly so that I don't say anything, right?
Like super bad.
So I brought my little notepad along, exactly my little Fisher Space pen, right? And I pull it out. And I started making a list of all of the people and organizations that she blamed for her defeat that were not named Hillary Clinton. And I got to 20. My favorite was Netflix, by the way.
Netflix?
She blamed Netflix.
What did Netflix do?
Netflix aired anti-Clinton documentaries.
You mean facts?
Well, this is particularly funny because the CEO of Netflix is a famous Democrat. He's a super Democrat booster. Well, not actually Ted, but also specifically Reed Hastings and his wife are very enthusiastic left-wingers. But I mean, it was just this litany of, basically excuses and complaints, right? With no sense of like personal responsibility at all, just like pure grievance. And so it was a negative lesson of like, okay, like whatever that is not the path. Like,
did she blame Comey?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she absolutely hated that guy. Yeah, no question.
That was a wild one.
100%. Yeah, exactly. And by the way, like that was super weird.
Yeah.
I don't think she was completely wrong on that.
I don't understand that one, honestly. If they didn't want Trump to win, I don't get that one.
Well, we know she's guilty, but we're not going to charge her.
Right.
Is a weird.
That's crazy.
Is a weird message to send.
It's almost as weird as the Biden one, where we don't think he's competent to stand trial for the documents that he had that were classified.
Exactly.
But he can have his finger on the button? What the are you talking about?
Exactly. We know he's guilty, but we never convict him because the jury would say that he's a senile old man.
Which is crazy because he's still running for president at the time. He's running for re-election.
Well, then remember, everybody at the time said, the media said that the prosecutor was lying, right? Because at that point,
of course, he's sharp as a tack.
He's sharp as a tack. Exactly.
My favorite is Joe Scarborough.
Yes.
This is the best Biden, intellectually, the best one I've ever seen. Like, dude.
Yes.
And then meanwhile, he had to go to Mar-a-Lago and kiss the ring.
Yeah.
Damn right he did. Him and his wife. And Trump was so funny about that because Trump's just, he completely rips into Joe Scarborough and then says, Mika was charming as usual. That's it. That's how he ends the tweet. Mika was charming as usual. Like, that's like more of a hit. Like as a man, you know, if some guy doesn't like you and then he rips into you, but then he talks about how great your wife is. That's kind of like a double hit because it's like, leave my wife out of it, okay? Don't tell me about how great my wife is, especially when we don't like each other. You know what I mean? Trump, he's the best. You know what? One thing I just took from that whole thing, maybe Democrats have to listen to regular people. Maybe that's something they should do. Look what happened to Mark when he listened to a regular person. How funny is it that they're like, we're just sitting at the restaurant and we can't taste the food and we can't taste the drinks? What? Hey, man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right now. If Kamala Harris won and I went over to Sonic, okay, because I got a Sonic just down the street, and I ate one of those burgers, buddy, the burger's going to taste exactly the same. It's going to cost 10 times more, but it's going to taste exactly the same. In fact, it'll be the price of like a gourmet burger, so it'll even taste better, you know? One of the benefits if Kamala Harris won, all the food would, your regular meals, bacon and eggs would be like an expensive meal, you know? You could always feel like you're treating yourself, no matter what. Anyways, guys, let's get into it really quick. Now, what I should do is show you a couple of clips of Hillary Clinton doing exactly what Mark was saying. This one is one of the best ones. You know, when he talks about her not taking responsibility, this is a real thing. And I don't know how stuff like this didn't wake everybody up, but apparently some people just nodded and agreed and they were just clapping like me at the beginning of every episode. They were just, you know, just ridiculous claps. One person said one time in the comment section that I clap, what do you say, like a handicap seal? I didn't appreciate it, but I remembered it. Respect. Let's get into it.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. And I take responsibility for those parts of it that I should. But Jane, it was like applying for a job and getting 66 million letters of recommendation and losing to a corrupt human tornado. And so I know that he knows that this wasn't on the level. I don't know that we'll ever know everything that happened, but clearly we know a lot and are learning more every day, and history will probably sort it all out. So of course he's obsessed with me, and I believe that it's a guilty conscience in so much as he has a conscience. I believe he knows.
Just like, she's so much like Kamala Harris, it's crazy. Of course he's obsessed with me. You know, it goes right back to Tucker Carlson. You ever heard Tucker Carlson tell that little analogy where he's like, you know, the way that these people lie on the left. And he wasn't just talking about, you know, regular people. He's talking about the politicians. And he's like, they're like a kid. And you say to the kid, hey, the cookies are gone. Did you eat the cookies? And they look you dead in the eye and they say, no, you ate the cookies. While they have like chocolate all over their face. She's like, of course he's obsessed with me. Hey, you just broke the law before the election. That's what you did, the whole thing with the computers. There was actual criminal stuff you did that you could have been charged with. Of course he's obsessed with me. While meanwhile, she's actually the one obsessed with him because she won't stop going on about him. Absolutely amazing.
And you know, one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin, is Trump actually reenacting The Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany. So I don't think we can ignore it. Now, and one other thing that you'll see next week, Caitlin.
And I only play that clip to just show how delusional, like how don't you wake up from watching this lady say these things? It's incredible.
We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm. We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave, platforms on the internet immunity.
She's just talking about X, just so you know. That's the only one she wants gone. Facebook is fine. Facebook's fine. You pressure Mark a little bit, he's good to go. He'll do whatever you tell him. Should I play this clip? Nah, this actually is a clip of her talking about coaching Kamala Harris through the debate. And to that I say, thank you. Thank you very much. Miss Clinton, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Good job. But this is just some of the things that helped Mark wake up. Not taking responsibility, suggesting that the election's not on the level. Trump knows, calling him an illegitimate president so many different times. It was crazy. And then claiming that he's obsessed with her. When in reality, the DOJ and like the FBI were just like, so do you want us to charge her? And he's like, I don't know if we should charge her. And she's like, you're so obsessed. Why are you so obsessed with me, you illegitimate president? Absolutely ridiculous. More people need to wake up the way Mark did. And you know what? I kind of woke up. I think I've told this story before. I kind of woke up a little bit. When Trump won the first time, I was like, whoa. I wasn't mortified. I wasn't mad, but I was just like, wow. I'm like, I watch him on The Apprentice and now he's president. I'm like, that is crazy. And I'm like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I had no idea. Me and my wife were shocked. We were like, whoa, this is interesting. Like, what's going on here? So, it took a little while, but all I had to do was see him as president and see good things happen. That's it. And then see him be absolutely hilarious and incredible all through the way. That also helped a little bit as well. But, some people are a little too far gone. For Mark, he needed that Mexican MAGA enthusiast to step in and, kind of click all these little millionaires and billionaires, these woke types up, and then he needed to hear Hillary Clinton say a bunch of things that just obviously weren't true. Kind of the same way Joe woke up with Obama. He needed to hear Obama lie. And now you don't hear Joe saying he's the best president we've ever had. And thank God for that. But there's people like this where I don't even know what you're supposed to do for them.
Another way to protest MAGA cheaply is to not shop. Don't shop. Buy everything used. And see if you can get it for free. Don't shop. Crash the economy.
Yeah, just go to the grocery store. See if you can get stuff for free. Just go ask what you can get for free. Crash the economy. That's a way of protesting. No, that's a way of destroying your country, But, of course, the blue hair and the glasses tell me that this person does not care. And I say this person because they probably don't identify as what they are. All good, fine. I'll say this person, they, them, however you like it, it's fine. But it's annoying. But these people need help. They need help waking up. A lot of people get too far gone, and it's interesting to see just how many of these there actually are. Look at this one. She looks normal.
3 ways that me and my family are preparing for the Trump administration. 1, we're making sure that we have our social security cards, birth certificates, transcripts from schools, our vaccine records, and we are getting our passports. We're making sure that we have all of this in case we have to flee the country. We're already planning on fleeing Florida, but if we have to flee the country, we want to have all this stuff on hand. Number 2, we are planning on fleeing the state of Florida and going to a blue state. We already know that red states will 9 times out of 10 probably implement Project 2025 first.
Hold on. You know, listen, you know I like to let a clip play through, okay? But just hold on a second. Let me just repeat. 9 times out of 10, red states will implement Project 2025. We already know, she says at the beginning of that statement. Hey, man. Hey, how do you know? How do you know? It's only been 2024 once. They've only made Project 2025 once. What are you talking about? That's how far gone the people are. Some of them. She's like, we're going to flee Florida and maybe we're going to flee the U.S. because they're all going to implement Project 2025. You know, Matt Walsh made a funny post. He goes, you know what? He goes, I think it's about time that we just tell them, yeah, Project 2025 is the plan. It is the plan. I was like, oh, you shouldn't do that to them. Look at this guy. Looks normal, doesn't he? Looks like he might be out with Cameron Haynes and Joe just eating some elk sausage, getting ready for a bow hunt. But no, that's soy in his beard, not gray.
They are traitors to this country. Every single one of them. Kamala Harris is a seasoned prosecutor. If she just sits back and allows this to happen, then what's the point of voting? You know, if our votes aren't going to matter, then what the is the point of voting? And that's maybe why some people voted, because they just believed that it was bullshit. And they didn't believe that it would count. And, you know, to some degree, I don't blame them. So if they just sit back and allow this to happen, I won't vote again. I'll get off every social media platform forever. And I don't care what anybody says. If we're just going to sit back and allow these traitors to destroy our country, then I don't want to vote again. I don't care about the system, because the system will have failed us.
Oh no, Brian. Brian, no. You know how much we all love your pictures of pottery and your 4-legged kids. That's what you call them because you're a cat dad. Hashtag cat dad. Oh no, we're all going to miss it so much. We're going to miss you showing us all how you make kombucha. Oh no, Brian. Oh, please stay. Please stay. Please stay. We need more of these rants from you, Brian. Oh my gosh. Please check yourself in somewhere, sir. This person as well. This guy might be the worst. I'm not even going to play this whole thing.
You know what? Bet. I mean to be at the Capitol to change the world, and I need everyone's help to do it. I mean to make the biggest spectacle I possibly can of myself with more than 20 million people at my back. Yep. I am weaponizing blue sky, I think is what I'm attempting to do. I am attempting to weaponize blue sky in raising me up to the level of giants so that I can say our piece. Now you can be with us or against us, but you need to be there, ready in whatever way that means to you.
Just so deranged. Just so deranged. I'm not even going to play the whole thing because it's too much of a call to action. I don't like what this guy's doing, you know? And at the end of the day, you know, he wants 20 million people to rise him up to the heights of giants so he can cry uncontrollably in front of millions of people. That's all he wants. He just wants to cry and scream, and his glasses get all fogged up and he has to take them off and he has to wipe them with his shirt. He just wants to do one of those. No, Kyle, we're not doing that with you. Thank you very much. No one's doing that. Okay? If you, like, I don't know what this guy's thinking. You know, people who posted it had to tag a bunch of like police departments because they're like, look into this guy. But it's just, you know, I wish people like this could relax a little bit, like Mark did, and just kind of wait. Like, I know for a fact, if Kamala Harris won, I would start looking for good things that she's done. Like, I wouldn't, obviously, I'd be zeroed in on the bad stuff because I'd have to show you guys, but I would be looking for good things, you know, hoping for some good things. You know, Trump even said something similar about Joe Biden. He said in one of his speeches, one of his rallies, he goes, if Joe Biden was a great president, I wouldn't be doing this. He's like, if he was a good president, I wouldn't have to be doing this. And he's right. You know, I wish they would just look out for the good that Trump plans on doing. Like, have you not seen who he's appointing to these positions? And you're still mad? Really? You're angry still? Every step of the way so far, just in terms of appointing things, stopping wars, Putin's open to resolving the whole thing. Putin's like, I'm sure he'll find a way to resolve this conflict. Putin said, I'm sure it will get solved. What? We're good. World War III doesn't happen. You're still mad. You're still mad. You know, I always make the joke. They hate him so much, they'd rather have World War III. They'd rather World War III break out than just accepting Trump as the president. It's crazy. Now, let's get into something that's been going on here. You know, speculations are rife. Dem strategist urges Kamala. Hillary 2028 here. Hillary Clinton sparks wild 2028 speculation. You know, a lot of people are saying that Hillary Clinton is going to run for president. Now, I know where this came from. There's stories about it. People in 2028. There's a bunch of different stories talking about this. Oh, I should go up to the top of this one. So just in case you guys hear this and, you know, it puts a damper on your day, because of course it would. This story doesn't really have any validity. And believe me, if it did, you know, and, you know, I won't say never, because who knows what's going on in her head. But she didn't make an announcement about running. She didn't say that. It's not on her X. It actually stems from this article, okay? This is the first article about it, all right, by Justin Berry. And then this guy, one of Trump's senior advisors, let me shrink this screen a little bit for you guys. Let's get the whole screen in there. This guy right here, Jason Miller, one of Trump's senior advisors, he made this post, which again was just to that article that I just showed you, or is a different article. I'll show you in a second. And he just said she's running. Clinton's scheduled to speak in Little Rock, Arkansas on December 7th. I really don't. And then when you actually go through to the link, it just says that she's scheduled to speak, and it talks about Bill Clinton speaking at an event, and that's it. There's no more to the story. It's blank. It's just a couple of paragraphs, and that's him just announcing that she's running. Now, maybe she's planning on running, and maybe that's where she'll make the announcement. But if you're on X and you're hearing this, or you're on any social media platform, you're hearing that Hillary Clinton's running, this is where it stems from. It literally stems from this one tweet from this one guy, and that's it. People just ran with it because he is actually one of Trump's advisors. Like, I'm not making that up. He is legit. He is a legit guy who has helped Trump every step of the way. He's been an advisor on every single campaign, and he's won twice, as it shows in his bio, crown ×2. So people looked at his almost 500,000 followers, and they just thought, bang, this is solid information. Again, I'll say this, maybe that happens, but from what he is posting here and what he's saying, there is zero proof that she plans on running for president, and this is going to be her announcement. Maybe she will, but I just wanted to bring that to you guys. You know, Mark was talking about Hillary Clinton. I thought I'd just take this opportunity to throw this your way so you guys understand why you're hearing that kind of thing. And, you know, let's pray because prayer is what wards off things like this. Oh man, but you know, honestly, I hope she does run. It'd be worse than Kamala Harris. Are you kidding me? With all the things I just played for you that she said, she's talking about in the past 2 years, she's talked about re-educating people who voted for Trump. She's talked about rewriting the Constitution. She's talked about taking away immunity from social media platforms so they can get taken over by the government and monitored in a way like Twitter used to be. She's just, there's no leg to stand on. There's no leg to stand on. It's crazy. It would be a really bad decision, especially she goes up against JD. JD steps in. JD Vivek Tulsi JD, Tulsi Vivek. RFK decides to step in. RFK versus Hillary. It's done. RFK, Tulsi as vice, Tulsi as president, RFK as vice. Don Jr. steps in. It's done. It's done. Who are you gonna? What, you gonna have Kamala be your vice? Get out of here. You're finished. There's no way. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but would it make sense for her to announce a run for presidency so early, before Trump even takes office? She's announcing December 7th, you know, a month and a half before Trump even takes office. I feel like that wouldn't be good, because then the Republicans would know. They'd be like, okay, let's decide who's going to take the MAGA torch now. They would be so well prepared. It would be nuts. You do that. You give Vivek 4 years to prepare? Oh, God. The speeches. This guy doesn't even use a teleprompter. Are you kidding me? The speeches he would make. Oh, him preparing for a debate with Hillary Clinton. Oh, God. Jeez. You don't even have to bring up the stuff that I can't even bring up, that you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. You know what I mean. You don't even have to bring up that. The 56. I'm going to stop there. I'm just saying. So there's really no validity to the story, although she might announce it. I really doubt it. You know, if you hear about the story, it stems from one tweet from one person, and that's it. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.